Hey everybody, welcome back to an episode of the Elite, the Elite Count. I had my shows backwards. I'm War Machine MJ, and I'm here today to talk about AEW from June the 3rd. Yes, June the 3rd. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get cracking into it. We kicked off Dynamite with, well, they started off with a nice little Black Lives Matter video package. Very nice, very classy. And then we went into directly into AEW Tag Team Championship action as Kenny Omega and Hangman Page took on Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford in their corner. And I gotta say, JR is getting real creepy every time he talks about Penelope Ford on commentary. I get it. She's hot. She's fine. But it's totally out of character for JR. Anywho, speaking of her, she well, of course, she got involved a couple of times in the match, but she got kicked out after she tried to hit Hangman Page with a Hurricanrana, but yeah, Page wasn't going anywhere, and he looked at the referee and go, "What do I do? What do I do?" Referee tells her to drop her, and well, he drops her like a sack of wet potatoes. Then she gets kicked out. Afterwards, it was just bang, 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 bang. They kicked the absolute shit out of each other. Of course, Jimmy Havoc tried to get a hacksaw in play, and Jr. pretty much sold it as it happens every day. He's just like, oh look, he's got a hacksaw. But of course, the final stretch saw Hangman Page and Kenny Omega just hitting just a buttload of double team moves on Jimmy Havoc, and of course Hangman Page pinned Jimmy Havoc after a last call, which is a V trigger and a buckshot lariat combination. Next, they showed a clip from social media where Tully Blanchard just berated Shawn Spears for the way he's been acting, and then for what I saw, it was very good. I'm gonna have to look at the whole video, but it was amazing. But then they cut to Tully Blanchard hopping in a limo with Shawn Spears, basically tell him search for a tag team partner is over with. I got something that's going to improve your game a lot more. Then he opens up a briefcase, and it's a black fingerless glove. Still missing on what that's going to be, but we'll find out in due time. Next, well, I would say this was a match, but Brian Cage just decimated the Captain Sean Dean with the drill claw. After the match, Taz, who represents Cage, was just spitting absolute fire on the microphone because he felt like he and his client were being disrespected last week while they were sending a threat to John Moxley. Mox was just kind of laughing it off. Of course, Mox came down after he had heard his own name, and he basically said, "Well, listen, facing an intense guy like Cage makes him real happy, but he better not forget who the hell he's talking to." Next, we had Alex Marvez hosting an interview with Lance Archer, who was beating up on some random dude in a lucha mask. And then Lance Archer took the interview segment, and he got really intense with that. And he basically said how he's not going to get worked up over he's not going to get completely hung up on one loss, and he's just going to go back to doing what he does best, and that's tearing through the entire AEW locker room because everybody dies. And of course, he walks off, and Jake Roberts, who is just like oh my god throughout the whole interview, just kind of apologizes to Alex Marvez for Archer's behavior. Which you would think, given that Jake Roberts is so high on this dude, he would just be soaking in the intensity that Archer's giving off. Well, anyway. Next, we were going to have an injury update from Private Party until Matt Hardy showed up, and he was checking up on Mark Quinn, who said his knee is A-OK. He's not going to be missing time. And, he kind of paid his respects to the party. Of course, Private Party's like, let me pitch you an idea. Private Party, Matt Hardy, Hardy Party. Matt Hardy just politely like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to go now. And as he's walking out, he passes by Sammy Guevara, and he just basically told him, Sammy, we cool. Nothing but respect. We cool. He bows, kind of walks away, and Sammy Guevara's just kind of. Next, we had Chris Jericho taking on Colt Cabana. Of course, this match coming about from last week's brawl between Jericho and Tyson. And Colt Cabana was one of the guys preventing Jericho from going after Tyson. So Jericho blamed Colt Cabana for not getting his hands on Mike Tyson. When the Inner Circle came out, Sammy Guevara was loudly and horribly singing to Judas, which made my day. That was so damn funny. I couldn't breathe for a while. Anyway, this was a really fun match. Match I never expected to see and never expected to be this good between Jericho and Colt Cabana. Of course, Jericho being just an absolute legend in the wrestling game, and Colt Cabana being the legendary indie guy, who of course got pro wrestling tees off the ground. Anyway, Jericho got the victory with a Judas effect. Afterwards, Jericho was hyping up a match between him and Mike Tyson, basically calling out the baddest man on the planet repeatedly, until the laziest man on the planet, Orange Cassidy, showed up. Orange Cassidy casually strolled to the ring, walked right up to Jericho, and tucked his hands into his belt. Well, right underneath his belt, since Jericho's tights didn't have pockets on them. And of course, Jericho and Hager tried to beat up OC, but OC slipped out of there, and Best Friends pulled him over the barricade. Next, we had and this was fairly entertaining. It was a montage of Britt Baker, who was rehabbing her injury while in her wheelchair. It was a lot of fun stuff. Just her looking very pathetic while doing workouts. The final shot was her, going up a wheelchair ramp in her wheelchair. And she's struggling. And of course, her aide Rebel and Doc Samson were goading her on. They cut back to her. She's still struggling. Then they cut back, and there's Shivani in the fold, and she just powers through it. It's good, stupid fun. Like, it's stupid, but in a good way, kind of stupid. Next, we had Nyla Rose taking on Big Swole. Big Swole was throwing everything she had at Nyla Rose, but Nyla got the victory with a spine buster. Afterwards, there was an interview segment between Big Swole and Tony Schiavone that was interrupted by Britt Baker, who she was sitting in her wheelchair on a golf cart, yeah, one of those big fancy flatbedded golf carts with a tag that said Rolls Royce. Of course, they're soaking in all the roll puns. But yeah, the golf cart backed up to, you know, budged the guardrail. Of course, Britt Baker was talking all that trash to Big Swole. Swole goes under the ring, grabs a chair, and gets over the barricade. Of course, the golf cart pushes away, and yeah, Big Swole wasn't having none of that trash talk. Next, we had a backstage interview between Darby Allin and Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was trying to get down to the meat and potatoes of what's going on because Darby Allin got injured at the casino ladder match, and he was trying to connect the dots between that and between Darby Allin's issues with Taz. Of course, all Darby had to say was, "Life's a big joke," but as for Brian Cage, he'll get the last laugh. Next, we had an interview between Tony Schiavone and FTR. Of course, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, where they talked a lot. They talked about a lot of things, like what FTR stands for. Of course, FTR replied with, "It can mean anything. It means a way of life. It can mean follow the rules, fear the revolution, all that, this, and the other." And of course, they talked about the laundry list of tag teams that they want to face in AEW. But they didn't mention the Young Bucks until Shivani asked about them, and they said they wanted to beat the Bucks in 3 minutes, which no way that's going to happen. No, they're going to give that crowd's going to be at fever pitch, and yes, they're going to wait at least until they have somewhat of a crowd, more than just the AEW roster. But that crowd's going to be into a fever pitch when that match comes on, and they're going to give everybody their money's worth. But they also talked about saving the Bucks from the Butcher and the Blade, because when they beat the Bucks, they don't want any doubts about about them being 100%. Basically, just keeping the prey at full capacity, full potential. Of course, Butcher and the Blade showed up, trying to get a piece of FTR. FTR said, "Hey, your attack wasn't personal. It's just business. But if they want to make it personal, they can settle their business in the ring." And that match was set up for next week. So next week's match, FTR's debut will be against the Butcher and the Blade. Next, we had Alex Marvez interviewing Colt Cabana about his recent string of losses. And he just talked about, "I've had some victories here, some victories there, but the big victories keep looming over me." And then Brody Lee came up and tried to induct Colt Cabana in the Dark Order. Gave him a bottle of water and a mask. And Colt Cabana just kind of said, "No way in hell I'm joining them." And then he proceeded to drink the water that they handed him. Anyway, that led us to our main event as Cody took on Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship. Of course, Jungle Boy won the Battle Royal last week to face Cody. And it was made official that the winner of this match would take on Mark Quinn next week for the TNT Championship. Of course, Mark Quinn of Private Party. Yeah, this was a really good match. Cody makes the most of what he's got. He wrestled a very intense style, just trying to stop Jungle Boy at every opportunity. Of course, Jungle Boy was, he was playing a little aggressive, Winston, in that match too. There was there was a spot outside the ring where Cody and MJF where Cody and Jungle Boy were beating up on each other, and Jungle Boy had his back up against the stage, and Cody headbutted it after Jungle Boy had escaped. Of course, Jungle Boy and MJF were jaw jacking. MJF, who's uh, on the outside of, who is at ringside, if I can get my words together. You know, they were jaw jacking. Apparently, their business isn't done yet. When they come back to Cody, he was covered in blood. Apparently, he likes the red stuff. Yeah, and Jungle Boy, seeing blood in the water, literally took advantage of it, and he just started punching on Cody's wound. But yeah, that just kept the match going. Of course, Cody and Jungle Boy got put through the ringside table at one point during the match, and Cody just kind of shrugged it off. But Cody got the victory with a crossroads. Afterwards, he kind of just immediately after the bell rung, he just kind of clasped Jungle Boy's head, and pretty sure he said some words of encouragement. Of course, the Nightmare Family and Jurassic Express were in the ring, and they closed out the show with Cody and Jungle Boy thanking each other for a great match. So yeah. As far as other news go, they announced Fighter Fest on that episode of AEW. Sorry, looking at the NXT notes. They confirmed Fighter Fest, and that's going to be the first. No, that's going to be a 2-week event. It's going to take place July 1st and July 7th. Yes, July 1st and July 7th. So and so far, the only matches confirmed for Fighter Fest is Cage taking on Mox for the AEW Championship, and Best Friends challenging Omega and Page for the AEW Tag Team Championships. So, who knows how that will go. But as for us, given that it's going to be on Wednesday night, or on Dynamite, I don't know if we're going to consider that a pay-per-view or not. But we'll see. Anyway, that being said, that does it for this episode of The Elite Count. If you miss Rod, you can check his opinion. If you miss Rod and you want to hear his opinions, go check out his podcast, Prime Talk with Rodimus Prime, on the Castbox app. He talks about all your wrestling needs and wants. So, that being said, I'm War Machine MJ, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.